Tell us about your boy Alperen.
Look, he's just doing everything you need him to do. I mean, he's productive. He's only 19, mind you. This is what's crazy to me. Like, he is taking veteran big men into the post and faking them out of their shoe.
All right, we've hit a bunch of teams now, so I want to shine a spotlight on some individual players as well. Mort, I know you want to talk about someone from Houston in particular, and really Houston, especially after that 1-16 start, deserves credit team-wide for bouncing back and going on a 7-game win streak and just being vastly more competitive as of late. I think they're 8-2 in their last 10, so they are no longer, the absolute bottom feeder that they were going into the year. But you have been a fan of this guy since before the draft. Tell us about your boy Alperen.
Look, he's just doing everything you need him to do. I mean, he's productive. He's only 19, mind you. This is what's crazy to me. Like, he is taking veteran big men into the post and faking them out of their shoe. Mm-hmm. Like, the way that he operates in the low post when he's just looking to score is just uncanny. Like, he is playing like he's a 10-year veteran. Passing wise, Brian, I mean, good Lord, some of the passes he's throwing. I think it was our friend Jesse Blanchard who said that he is the center position of Jason Williams. The wild, crazy passes. I kind of love that. He is just making some of the most insane dimes where you just go, how did someone of his size do that? And I was speaking to, I think I've told this story. I was speaking to a scout before the season, or actually before the draft, and I was like, Alperen Sengun is really, really good. And the answer I got back was, there is some legit Nikola Jokic vibes there. Like, there is something there. And it's like, yeah, I could see it, because when what he did in Turkey was, what's that? I mean, he was passing the hell out of that basketball, but as you know, Europeans aren't really in love with the assist statistic. They're very, very harsh when they determine it. I saw a couple games where I was like, he should have had 7 or 8 assists at the end of the game, and he was counted to having like 3 because someone dared dribble once. Because if they dribble once, it's like, then it can't be an assist. And so he kept dropping during draft night. I was like, what is going on here? Because he's clearly that good. Right. And everything we've seen so far this year has only confirmed, to me at least, that NBA decision makers are still stuck with some level of xenophobia when it comes to your international prospects. Because how can you, in your right mind, look at what he's doing right now and say, oh yeah, he's the 16th pick? Right. You mean to tell me that there are 15 players ahead of him who are better this year alone in this draft class? Jalen Green, who was drafted second, is not even as good as Alperen Sengun is right now. It's not even close.
Can you imagine him, like, if Memphis had taken him instead of Zaire Williams, and you had a Sengun, Jaren Jackson Jr. long-term front court?
Oh my God! See, that would have been the thing. I wouldn't even have pitched Jaren Jackson Jr. as a 3 if Alperen Sengun had been the center, because he will give you the rebound and he'll also give you the passing. Right. He'll give you everything you needed. That kind of allows, how Aaron Gordon, I know he's a do-it-all power forward, but like he's kind of unleashed next to Jokic because he can roam freely and all that. Mm-hmm. Like Sengun and Jaren Jackson would not be entirely dissimilar in the way that duo kind of functions. Like, Alperen Sengun would go into the post and he would kick out to Jaren Jackson Jr. roaming the 3-point line. Like, it would be so much fun. You're absolutely right. Like, so many teams made a mistake here. This guy should have gone I had him in my top 6. And I may even have had him in my top 5 because I was flip-flopping a little bit on Jonathan Kuminga. I mean, everything I'm seeing right now is just validating that he was drafted way too low.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I know San Antonio is very high on Jakob Poeltl, but
imagining
Sengun as your backup center for now, possible.
Oh, I have some intel there.
Oh boy.
I heard that because he went through a practice with the Spurs. And I heard some things where you just kind of go, oh yeah, this is why you're old, Spurs. This is why your organizational mindset is old. Because their evaluation of who he was based on the drills that they took him through, when I heard that, it was just, you completely missed the point. Completely missed the point of why you brought him in there. And it made me fearful of the future of the San Antonio Spurs, given how they rated him. Because he was so clearly going to translate because of his skill set. I mean, that was the least of my concerns coming in. That was the translation of it. The rebounding was always going to translate. His shooting was always so much better, even though he didn't shoot the 3-ball in Turkey. That was more of a cultural thing, but the shot was perfectly fine. There was nothing wrong with the release. You could see it in his free throw shooting as well. Everything was online. Passing the ball, he would get those blocks and the steals. Again, his defensive impact right now, statistically speaking, is very, very good. I do question if that's just noise. I think it is noise. He is not an elite defender. He never will be, in my opinion. But it's a guy who can still come in and make a difference by just playing positionally sound defense. Like, there was nothing in his game that kind of went, oh, that's not going to translate. He's just going to be a scrub in the NBA level.
Right.
So for the Spurs to kind of insinuate that was, okay, that's concerning. You were very, very good at evaluating international prospects, and now you're not?
Yeah, that's not a great sign. I mean, I'm actually looking at the draft board, and it's, I know Jalen Suggs is off to a slow start in Orlando, but
he'll be fine.
Yeah,
he'll be fine.
And Giddey has played well. Golden State just spent the number 2 pick on Wiseman. They weren't going to take him. Franz Wagner has played really well for Orlando. So I feel like
I'm taking him over Wagner, and I think right now it's between him and Giddey.
So I was going to say number 9, Sacramento, where they took Davion Mitchell despite having
2
every
point
guard
guards
under the sun. Yeah, that. And I know they re-signed Richaun Holmes to a super cheap deal, but it's similar to what Houston has right now, where they have Christian Wood on a super cheap deal, and now he is a primo trade chip if they ever decide to move him. Drafting Sengun wouldn't have precluded Sacramento from re-signing Richaun Holmes to that deal.
Right.
And then if you get him on that deal and you do decide to pivot in a year or two, once, this year you could have done Holmes as a starter and Sengun as the backup, and then once Sengun is fully acclimated to the NBA, then you can maybe consider trading Holmes on that cheap deal. He could have netted you a freaking haul in return. You're talking about a Buddy Hield, Marvin Bagley package. Talk about a Buddy Hield, Richaun Holmes package. That probably gets you in the conversation for some serious talent.
Yep. However, the one that got away was Charlotte.
Ooh, James Bouknight.
They didn't need Bouknight. They needed a 5.
Yeah.
He was the best. He's better. He was the best player on the board at that point in time as well. They went wing, guard, whatever you want to classify Bouknight as. And I'm not saying Bouknight is bad. I don't think he is.
Right.
But you can't tell me that a young team led by LaMelo Ball, Miles Bridges, PJ Washington couldn't use an Alperen Sengun right now instead of Mason Plumlee.
Yeah, right.
The passing between Sengun and LaMelo Ball. Are you freaking kidding me?
Yeah, that would have been nice. Yeah, the pass he had the other day, I forget who it was against, but where he went under the basket, and I honestly don't know how the pass. Was it over?
He threw
his
it over
head?
his right shoulder.
Okay, yeah, but not looking too. He was facing the basket all the way to the 3-point line and hits. It was Kevin Porter Jr. I think he hit him
Kenyon Martin
right
Jr.
in the. Kenya. Okay, yeah, he hit him right in the shooting pocket. Just immediate pull up. It was. I mean, it was. Dare I say Jokic-esque.
That's the thing. He can deliver those passes, and he's so I almost take offense to the fact that we have him in this podcast because we're supposed to be talking about surprises, and to me, this isn't surprising. Like, he was that good. I'm just frustrated in a way that we still act surprised whenever a European or an international prospect comes over and does well. It's like, what a luxury. Like, what are we doing? What are we doing? Right. It's happened so many times before. And then during the draft process, well, we don't really know how you're going to acclimate it to the NBA. Yeah, sure, because we haven't seen Dirk Nowitzki do it, right? Or Hakeem or Giannis. What are we doing? Why are we still so far behind? I'm saying we. I'm actually the European here, but
right.
Like, why is the league so far behind with this? It doesn't make sense. And fortunately, I know I have John Hollinger in my corner for this as well, because he was as surprised. He was like, Sengun is good. Like,
that's right. That's right. All right, the last guy that I want to hit is, speaking of the Spurs, is Dejounte Murray.
Yes, baby.
I saw a report from Ian Begley of SNY yesterday that said the Sixers were not interested in a package centered around Dejounte Murray for Ben Simmons. And I would love to know when that package was offered and if it was still on the table. Because I mean, I had been saying the Spurs were like one of the most logical partners this entire time.
Yeah.
And I just thought Dejounte Murray had another level. Like, I know the Sixers want an all-star caliber player, a top 25 player, whatever the case may be. Is it fair to say Dejounte Murray should be in that conversation now?
Yeah, I think that's fair. I mean, so here's the thing with Murray, right? He still has some warts, and he's not overly efficient.
Right.
He's not a great three-point shooter. He doesn't generate free throws. So his issues lie mostly offensively. What he gives you on the glass, what he gives you as a passer, what he gives you defensively is outstanding. I wonder also if he's playing under circumstances that are just not optimized to him, because we know the Spurs, they're league last in 3-point field goal attempts per game. Let me just see if that's still accurate. It was a couple days ago. Yeah, the Spurs. Oh God, Spurs.
Always.
They are taking just 29 3-point shots per game.
It's still DeMar DeRozan's fault, by the way, even though he's not on the team anymore.
And LaMarcus Aldridge. It's both of them.
Right.
Right. Oh, and you know what even makes it worse is they're also 29th in generated free throws. They're 29th in free throws taken, 17.6 per game. So basically, they just have nothing going for them in the easy additional points category.
Right.
Which means you're so overly reliant on the two still. And that's probably best for Dejounte. Like, Dejounte can focus on the twos because he's a slasher. He's one of those guys who gets to the cup. But you need to have the players around him to give him the right spacing. Like, could you imagine him in a system where he was the lone slasher and he had like 5 guys playing around him who could all hit threes?
Like Seth Curry, Danny Green, Tobias Harris, and Joel Embiid.
That's not a bad... Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I in fact have been imagining it for the past 5 months.
I imagine it, and I imagine you have a semi after it I won't blame you for it because he's that good.
Yeah,
I really want to see what he does in. Oh, that's unfair. I was about to say what he does outside of San Antonio, but you know what? No, I want to see him just with spacing. If that comes in San Antonio, that's fine. Because I don't think this is like a Spurs problem necessarily. I realize they don't take a whole lot of shots from outside, but maybe it's also just them still rebuilding and figuring out the right players. Like Lonnie Walker is taking 5 triples per game. He's just not hitting anything. But yeah, I just want to see what he does with spacing. I really do. I think that could unlock something, but he's in that category for sure. Yeah. Why wouldn't he be?
Well, the weird thing, like, they have the personnel to do it. Like, they have Doug McDermott, they have Devin Vassell, they have Derek White. Like, they can put out lineups where he is paired with a bunch of spacers. I guess
Derek White is hitting 28% from 3. He hasn't had a good year.
Yeah, but he's at least willing to shoot them.
Yeah, he is. He's leading the team.
Yeah. But I mean, I guess they don't really have a stretch 5
or 4, unless you look at Kendall Johnson as a 4 moving forward, or Doug. I don't know. I mean, it's just a weird roster, man. It's a weird roster. It doesn't really fit. There's a reason they're bad. Like, it's just, yeah. I agree with you. Like, if that deal is still on the table, there is a chance that getting Dejounte Murray is such a big win because he actually goes to a place where his play can be optimized that he steps into stardom.
Right. That's
so I wonder generally. Yeah, I wonder generally if you can have him for cheap. I mean, cheap compared to what he could be.
Like, I'm guessing that deal was on the table in the offseason and has since been removed because of how well Dejounte has played this year. But that's what I've been, like, hung up on this whole time with, like, we want a top 25 player in return. I get it. Especially, you know, Jake Fisher at Bleacher Report had the thing out yesterday where it's like they might wait until the offseason and try to do a sign and trade for Harden or a sign and trade for Beal, or see if things go south in Boston and go for Jaylen Brown, or see if Dame asks out after this year. And like, that's all well and good. But we are now hearing stuff about, you know, Portland being reluctant to give Dame the full max extension that he wants. Like, James Harden, regardless of whether he stays in Brooklyn or goes elsewhere, he's going to want a 4 or 5 year max deal. Like, and we're seeing signs of decline, whether it's like permanent or just injury related, from both Harden and Lillard this year. So I almost wonder if you'd be better off gambling on the upside of a younger guy and banking on someone like Dejounte Murray to develop into a star when you're going to get their entire prime, instead of, like, obviously James Harden and Damian Lillard are better players than Dejounte Murray. As much as I love Dejounte, that is inarguable.
Right.
But is that going to be true 2 or 3 years down the line?
Probably, but I think the margin is going to be different, and to the point where their contractual differences,
right,
will be, I mean, crazy, especially if Harden resigns for a full max.
Yeah, I mean, Dejounte is under contract through the 23-24 season.
Yep.
At 15.4 this year, 16.6 next year, 17.7 in 23-24.
Peanuts.
Yeah, I mean, that is an unbelievable. It's one of the best contracts in the NBA if he continues on this trajectory.
No, for sure it is, and that's what I'm saying. Like, you can also get the additional benefit of, if you get him onto the team with that cap hold, or that cap hit, that frees you up to do other stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I love it. I think, I mean, I don't even know if the Spurs are interested in Ben Simmons. I really don't.
They shouldn't be anymore, because Dejounte Murray is just Ben Simmons at half the price now, but he's willing to shoot threes too.
Yeah.
Like, Ben Simmons
maybe that doesn't work in his favor. Maybe Pop is like, Dejounte, you're shooting freeze. We can't have that. Let's get Ben Simmons in there.
That's true. I don't think. Yeah, Ben Simmons has never had a season as good statistically as what Dejounte's doing right now.
No, I mean raw. You mean raw statistics?
Yeah. He's never had above 17 points a game.
Right.
He's never had both 8 rebounds and 8 assists. Or the first season he did, and then he's been around that area. But, like, again, you're getting Ben Simmons level production, less efficiency, of course, but that level of production at half the price.
But you're also not getting someone who turns down layups in the playoffs.
That's right. That's true. Well, I mean, at least you would get into the playoffs, so I guess that's
No, but I hear it. Dejounte is definitely worth a mention. And again, almost like with Sengun, I feel a little bit bad that we have him in the surprising category, because he had a good year last year. He was really good. It's just, you're kind of sitting there going, we didn't know whether he kind of hit his peak a little bit or he actually would get substantially better. And so far, he's looked substantially better.
Yeah, like I mean, we talked about an episode or two ago. He should be in the All-Star conversation this year. I know defense doesn't earn All-Star appearances unless you're Rudy Gobert, but he is just an incredible defender as well, and that has to count for something. But this year, I mean, this is the first year he's posting a positive number in offensive box plus minus, and he's doing so considerably. He's at 1.4, 2.9 overall. Like, dude, he's just so good, and I'm so mad that the Sixers didn't steal him when he could.
Still a sub 50 true shooting percentage, but that's the thing, right? Like, if he goes to Philly and have the spacing,
right? Yeah, I mean, he's the number one option in San Antonio, right? Like, this is another one where it's like the fit and the personnel around him are forcing him into a suboptimal role where he shouldn't be the number one offensive option. And maybe is like, especially Vassell as he grows into his role more. But like this, I mean, this is the fundamental problem with the Spurs that we've talked about for a while now. They still don't have that like clear cut superstar guy who can, like, if you put Paul George on this team and Paul George is here, then Dejounte Murray slides down a peg. That's a lot better. But yeah, I'm just so salty. But I'm thrilled for Spurs fans that they didn't get duped when they could have.
I mean, so this is supposed to be a positive podcast, but at some point in the future, we really need to have a conversation about the Spurs.
We've had this conversation. All right, like what's new? Nothing has changed.
Yeah. You're right. We can basically just take a segment we did 4 years ago.
Right.